Bourbonbarkeep, welcome. You've come to a House Call Wednesday. House Call Wednesday, we do just blind battles. Got just a blind sample pool. We pour them, we score them, and we answer some questions. Is the nice bottle with the pretty label actually worth $200? Or what is the best bottled in bond? I have no idea what's in front of me, and you can see the new set kind of has me a little thrown off. So we'll see if it's kind of a smooth transition or if this whole thing is distracting to mainly myself. Let's get these things scored, but first, new intro, yes. We're fancy now, so now you can kind of justify the like and subscribe, or subscribe and like, depending on what flow you kind of like. A little easier now. You can see we're poured up. Now let's dive into them. Cheers. Well, let's do the nose. Slow it down. Okay, got a lot of honey, a lot of white sugar. What I'm trying to say is this is, the sweetness is at a 9.8. Yeah, honey, cherry, a lot of vanilla, maybe even like a fake vanilla. We're gonna go ahead and put some green apple in that caramel, roll it around, have an oak stick just right in the core. Wasn't 100% sure what that was called for a few seconds there. Smelling mighty young, but let's see how she tastes. Let's get it on the palate. Cheers. Just a slight, maybe caramel and or buttered popcorn, just kind of pop in there. I think it's gone. We'll see on sip 2. Overall, nose translates directly to the palate, which sometimes you get a couple curveballs in there. This one told you who it was and immediately was like, no, seriously, no games. That's what it is. Caramel, maybe some orange creamsicle, maybe coming in there. That cherry's here. Green apple's gone, so orange was just like, get the out. So, I don't know. We'll see if orange is that big of an asshole on sip 2. Sip 2 is enjoyable. I like it. Has kind of like, if you're familiar with first class on Delta or another major airline that hasn't gone bankrupt yet. I don't know when you'll be watching this, so we'll see who's still around. Hopefully it's Delta, I don't know why. But ultimately, getting back to first class, you know, you have the peasants walking by you and you're like, oh, please, no eye contact. And they start handing out the biscottis and the mimosas and things like that. That's a roundabout way of saying maybe orange, biscotti, the faintest oak, maybe like that light brown sugar, so it does kind of graduate. I feel like I enjoy the palate a little bit more than the nose. That white sugar is slightly off-putting in terms of, am I gonna get a headache from this? Depending on how many mimosas you've had in first class, you just may anyways. Ultimately, highly enjoyable. I mean, the finish, I feel like it does kind of linger on the tongue a bit. I feel like I kind of have this nice cinnamon hanging around, just letting you know, hey, I'm not pure water. Speaking of water, I do feel like there was a lot of water added to what came out of the barrel. So I'm gonna go with probably around 90 to 100 proof. And the finish, if it is kind of in that lower tier range, isn't that bad. Like, I feel like I've drank whiskey, hopefully more on the budget side, but I drank it and I enjoyed it. Now, this wouldn't be a House Call Wednesday without a glass B. Glencairn's, 2 Bs. Does that make it, is that like a double negative? Not here, so we got that going for us. All right, do we have a matchup, or is this gonna be a quick one? Let's see. Okay, it smells like cornflakes. Cornflakes, maybe you put some fresh strawberries on there. Yep, that's it. Maybe you drizzled some honey. This kind of goes on the lighter side as well. like a dried apricot. You ever had one of those? Delightful, just a nice snack. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna make up stuff. That's about all I personally get on this fine, Wednesday. We'll just keep it with Wednesday. So that's when it releases, so that's what day it is. Let's get it on the palate. Very citrusy. A lot of lemon. I even would say grapefruit in there. Okay, as straightforward, straight shooter as what Glass A was, Glass B is a freaking liar. That doesn't taste anything like it. The nose, I mean. Yeah, I would go like a lemon, ruby red grapefruit. Feel like there's a little bit of sweetness in there. You got your honey, a little bit of vanilla mixed in there, maybe a little maple syrup, kind of sticking with that breakfast theme. Do I get the cornflakes? Not on sip 1, but there's sip 2. Let's see what that is. All right, it was a little difficult on Glass B here on sip 1. There's still kind of like this sourness to it, and it is kind of like a citrus sourness, maybe not like a bitter oak sourness, if you will. The Twizzler's there. I think that strawberry that we cut up on our cornflakes translated into something with a little more fakeness to it, but I didn't like a good strawberry Twizzler. And then on the finish, you're kind of sitting there and you're like, that's oatmeal raisin. So it's just kind of this gambit of breakfast in a glass that you may be here for on certain days. I think traditionally I'm gonna lean Glass A, but I mean, Glass B, it puts you on a ride of breakfast goodness that, you know, for the brunch people out there, I found your whiskey, so you can tune out. It doesn't matter what the senses are at this point. Speaking of, since we're professionals here, now we're going to move on to scoring right after a quick revisit, just to kind of make sure I know what I'm getting into, because Glass A hasn't had a say in quite a while at this point. So we're gonna do that, score them, do a little bang for the buck action, and then send you on your way. The revisit, you know, I was kind of talking to the glasses, kind of see where we're at. And Glass A, I'm not a huge fan of the nose, to be honest with you. I think that there's like this really like fake grape Kool-Aid smell that maybe I'm into when I'm like 11, but since we're talking about whiskey, I'm not. So I think the sweetness of the nose is slightly off-putting. It does kind of go a little grassy, slightly. Nitpicking. Overall, this is, close your eyes, this is what bourbon, I would think, it tastes like. You have your standard notes. They're standard notes for a reason. And when you're talking about hopefully more of the budget area, it's kind of what you want it to taste like. It tastes like a high quality budget pour. And if this is something that's like 80, we've learned a lot then. Glass B, on the other hand, there's just so much citrus kind of coming out nose and palate to where I'm kind of tempted to, if it's not a rye, this is at least a higher rye content. It doesn't taste like a bourbon. So there's that. You know, you start kind of, when you're doing blinds, you start kind of going down these paths, and maybe it gets a little more exaggerated because you're trying not to guess, but you can't help but guess, and he's getting this vicious cycle. So yeah, that's what's happening behind the scenes. So senses wise, why you all are here, I'm gonna score these guys. We have some categories. I don't know what side it pops up on. It's one of these sides, but that at least kind of helps guide the scoring piece of this. I don't know the label. If you're just tuning in and you skip to this part, I don't fully blame you, but I feel like you missed out on some valuable information and analogies. So we do the scoring, and then we also do a bang for the buck. So there's no labels, no age, no proof. You're just fishing in the dark. You know what I mean? So the senses on Glass A, I take price in consideration later. So what's the experience like? It's kind of light, a little boring. That's fine. I'll go 71. My mind's going to more of a budget. I can't do bang for the buck yet. But if you told me this was like 90 proof, that's what I want it to be. Definitely a sip and forget, if you will. Class B, on the other hand, do I want to drink grapefruit juice as a whiskey? Do I want just this gambit of breakfast? Not usually. So I kind of got to go that, 80-20 rule. And it's just fine. It's 67. Yeah. Now, the pre-assigned battle. This is the first step of finding out what I'm actually tasting. Bang for the buck has to come in here. So I got a laptop here. Once again, the new setup. I'm trying to figure out what makes sense. So our battle, the laptop says 67. We have now our empty vials of 43 and 12 for all of you keeping track at home. We'll see if you're like the baseball person, just writing in the pad. And I still kind of respect it, but I also have no idea why you do it. So we can get into that later. So we have that battle. Class A, $30. B, $30. So this is pure preference at this point. Well, Class A, I prefer. How much would I pay? That's usually a question we get in the comments. 45? 50 would be a stretch. Probably go up to 45. Take that for what it is. Knowing that, you're willing to pay an additional $15, get my money's worth, 77. Punch is pretty good. I like it. I feel like the budget bottles should get a little more credit than maybe what Bourbon Barkeep channel gives them credit for. So let's go 77. I don't know why it would be at 90. I mean, that's $45. It's not that much higher. Class B, on the other hand, for my personal preference, you have to, kind of put that out there, because someone else will hear these tasting notes of Class B and be like, that sounds so much better than Class A. Let's do that. So we'll do $30. I pay 40, 10 more, 73. Feel like it should be pretty close. I know you lose either way because of the senses, and I'm not willing to pay as much. So we got that going for us. Now, the grand reveal, and hopefully I could figure out how to edit this piece, because finding ourselves through this whole thing. All right, I'm just gonna click it and see how this turns out. All right, so we got battle 67. Buffalo Trace in Glass A and Bowman Brothers, 90 proof. Boom, Glass B. Let's get it. Feel like we answered a few questions. Is it a substitute? No. I feel like that's not anywhere near what this is, the Buffalo Trace. Bowman Brothers, I don't know what happens when you cross the line from Buffalo Trace Distillery into Virginia, I hope. But something happens and the juice just, no more Buffalo Trace. So for the people out there that are like, hey, this is a substitute, do it blind. It's not. I don't care where it came from. It's not. So subscribe. We'll wrap up real quick. If you have any other suggestions on what to put into the House Call Wednesday, let's do that. And we'll see what pops out next week. Cheers.